So on the 2nd of April, Parliament is expected to vote on the 2025 national budget. But we're hearing that the DA is not coming to the party in terms of approving the 0.5 percentage point increase that's been penciled in by National Treasury. And there's indication that the DA has been using the VAT drama to negotiate the idea of the ANC overhauling some of its economic policies, which apparently has not gone down well with the former ruling party. Well, with April the 2nd around the corner, budget negotiations appear to be in stalemate. So what are the implications of all of this? Well, to share their perspectives, I'm joined by Bernard Mofokeng. He's the tax controversy leader at Deloitte Africa, and Xhanti Payi, who will be joining us online a little bit later. He's a senior economist at PwC. Thanks very much, Bernard, for joining us.
Thank you.
Given the situation that we're faced with right now, just give us a sense of the steps that are going to be taken. The 2nd of April, we're expecting Parliament to vote on the budget, but we're hearing that maybe that might not be approved. If that's the case, what then happens? What are the steps that are going to be taken? And the other issue is that will VAT still be imposed come the 1st of May?
Okay, thank you. So the budgeting process is not as simple as that if it doesn't go well on the 2nd, that the budget won't be approved. It's a step process, you know. So if it doesn't get approved, the budget will still continue. There'll still be budgets allocated to departments as usual based on last year's budgets, and it can still be negotiated, and they can go to the next bill that's supposed to be approved. So the process doesn't stop there. It's not the end of the world anyway.
Yeah. You say it's not the end of the world. When will it be the end of the world? Because it's a 2025 budget, and there are allocations that have been made to national, provincial and the local government, and presumably those need to be executed with the knowledge of what the budget actually is.
Remember, what the PFMA provides is that if there's no budget approved, then it's going to kick in. Last year budget is going to kick in. Okay. So all departments will have the same budget as they had last year, and they can use that budget. But when it's eventually approved, then that budget will be adjusted according to the 25-26 budget.
Yes.
Yeah, so that will be provided in that. But it's a waiting game basically until everybody's happy they've approved it. And remember, even when the minister presents the budget, it's proposals. They are not firm. So they're still negotiated with all the parties, National Assembly members. They must vote on it, and they can discuss what to give, what they might let go in the budget, and which things can go, which ones. Even the VAT proposal might be challenged, but I don't think that will be the case at this stage.
Yeah, no, I see what you say, that it's not the end of the world. Allocations can still be made. Government can still continue, which is great. But let's say in the worst case scenario, the VAT increase is completely taken off the table and people say, no, this can't go ahead. If the National Treasury had to then go back to the drawing board, what options does it really have in terms of raising revenue?
Remember that even if they can adjust the proposals, amend them there from what the ministers proposed, they must still consider the benefit of the country. It must be financially not disastrous for the country, whatever they're going to do, all the political parties. So I don't see them eventually say that the VAT is going to be taken off the board totally at this point.
Yes.
And remember that those proposals, they've got a year, 12 months to get them approved. So negotiations can still be there. And looking at what other revenue aspects are there for them to replace the VAT with, they're very limited. Yeah. Remember, within personal income tax, we've been taxed for the last 3 years. No adjustments to the brackets have been made since the last 3 years. So we've been getting tax increases as individuals for a long time. Company revenues are down. So they've got limited things to do.
Yes. What do you think about, we always hear Labour saying they need to increase corporate income tax because it was reduced recently to 27%, and they're saying that it should be up to 28%. But at the end of the day, companies don't really pay tax until they actually make money. Isn't that the case?
True.
Yeah.
So I understand what Labour is saying because they don't want the tax burden to shift on them.
Yeah.
But it's already been shifted on them for the last 3 years. They've been paying more taxes. And looking at the tax collections for the last 2 or 3 years, company taxes have been down. You know, they're almost 2/3 of individual taxes. So I don't think it's going to raise any more revenue from companies.
Yeah.
What they need to do is to put money into the economy, invest, as the minister has indicated, so that companies can start investing and making more profits and pay more taxes. That's the only way I see that companies are going to contribute more, not increasing the tax rate.
All right, Bernard, I understand that our guest online has joined us. Xhanti, thank you very much for joining us. I just wanted to ask you, given all the uncertainty around this budget, what would the implications be? I mean, Bernard has explained to us that it takes a whole year, or it can take up to a whole year to negotiate the budget. But in the event that the budget is not approved, what are the fiscal implications? What is it that National Treasury can do?
I think it's interesting that we can actually put on the table the proposition that it can take a year. Remember, one of the things everyone was concerned about, and I think perhaps they are still concerned about, was whether or not we could actually have a working government in terms of this sort of compromise where you have a government of national unity, and whether or not it would be able actually to deliver as expected. So that was really always the concern. It seems that with all of the doubts now that it is difficult to reach compromises and therefore budgets cannot be passed. And I think I heard your guest saying that, remember, a budget is law, so is tax. That's actually law. So if there hasn't been an allocation by law, then certainly one imagines that it's very difficult to start to spend money that has not been allocated by law. But another thing that the minister spoke about when he delivered the budget was something that was quite interesting, in the sense that he said, there are actually areas of government, with the provinces and municipalities, who have already spent some of the money that would have been allocated this year because they owe service providers for work done last year. So you would find, for example, that service providers would have done services for the financial year 23-24, 24-25, and that they have not been paid because the government is waiting for allocations for this year because they run out of money. That's an interesting one, because of course then it means that those people have not been then paid, and then it takes us back to the big concern we've always said about government not paying suppliers on time, and that has devastating effects, of course, on businesses and certainly the economy.
Yeah,
and so we find that that's the same thing here.
Xhanti, I want to come in there, given that we're running out of time, and ask you one last question. Can we absolutely not afford to go to the markets and borrow more money from the capital markets? Is that off the table as government seeks to try and rejig finances if we can't get an increase in VAT in the next financial year or the next tax year?
Well, in order for you to go and borrow, you need Parliament to actually agree to that sort of thing. Remember, that might be something that they call a supplementary budget, where you go out to market and say you borrow. You cannot take the country into further debt without actually Parliament agreeing that that is something that is allowable, that has been discussed, and that we're allowed to do, because otherwise ministers could just borrow us to the hilt. It is important that even that decision is actually brought to the legislature.
Yeah, all right. Gentlemen, thank you very much for having spoken to us about this matter. Of course, we'll get some clarity. As Bernard was saying, this is but a first phase in the negotiations at Parliament level. We'll find out what's happening on the 2nd of April when a vote is cast on whether the budget 2025 will go through. So I've been in conversation with Bernard Mofokeng. He's tax controversy leader at Deloitte Africa. I failed to ask him what the controversy is all about, but we'll have that conversation another day. And Xhanti Payi, he's a senior economist at PwC.